Been a while since I've done a review on a phone. I have the AllCall Bro in for testing. This was sent in via Gearbest for review. Let's just look through the specs very quickly. Quad-core processor, 1GB RAM, 16GB of storage, and this is a dual SIM slots for this particular phone. It doesn't have 4G, by the way, it's a 3G phone. Taking it out of the box to have a look. There is a screen protector on there, so you want to peel that off. Some people prefer to completely take the protector off. It can be a little bit reflective, but it does give you a bit of protection. Now on the back, the case is actually quite nicely made. This is metal, most of it, apart from the top and bottom sections. Feels pretty good, particularly for a budget phone. It doesn't feel like a cheap phone. And in terms of in the hand, it feels a bit more expensive than it is, albeit not a premium phone. We have a single speaker and microphone on the base. We have the volume control, and there's a texturing on the power button, so you can feel that. They're also spaced out quite well. There's dual cameras on this. We'll have a look at the cameras later on. There's the LED flash, micro USB charging port, and a 3.5mm headphone jack is also included. You'll see the metal bezel there too. Certainly initial impressions are fairly good. Feels pretty decent, particularly considering the super low price. Other included items include the tool for opening the tray for the SIM and memory card. This is the micro USB charging cable, and I have the Euro version with a USB charger, but you can use any USB port. Now opening it up with the tool, just pull out the tray, and you have a choice with this. You can either fit 2 Nano SIM cards, these are the smaller type, or if you fit a memory card, a micro SD card, you lose one of the slots, so you'll only be able to run 1 SIM card with it. Onto the user manual, fairly basic but fairly easy to follow too, no problems with that. Some of these phones have generic ones, this one is for the specific model, and the screen is actually quite good on the viewing angles. It's a 720p display, it's not full HD, but decent viewing angles on the IPS screen. Now, because this is running the newer version of Android, you get a bit more customization with the drop-down menu. You can pick particular ones that you want. It can also hide the navigation bar if you want to. It's just a refinement over the previous versions. The differences aren't huge, but it is nice that you can customize that. The included wallpapers and stuff, it's all pretty much standard with this. They haven't done a whole lot different with this phone, and I don't mind that myself because they haven't overloaded it with stuff. But you can set Lockscreen Wallpaper separately for the home screen and on the lock screen. It also has a split screen, but not all of the apps are supported with that, and it's fairly quick at swiping through the apps. There is an on-the-air update service or over-the-air, but I didn't find an update available. Just a few basic apps installed with this, not much at all, and I'm happy about that because a lot of the junkware you don't have to mess around with. Now, in terms of the menu systems, pretty straightforward. You do have some gesture controls, and some of them are actually quite useful. You can also have a learning function where you can actually teach it different ones. That's the Smart Wake menu. There's nothing outrageous in this. You do have Bluetooth, all fairly standard stuff. But one thing that I did like is the fact you can swap around the keys too if you don't like that positioning. And there is a notification LED too. You have 2 colours for that, red or green, so you can set one for messages or missed calls, and I like that. It's a nice feature, and not all phones have that. It's something which is very simple, but I find it quite useful to have. Rest of the stuff pretty standard. Now we look at the fingerprint unlock and scanner. So you have to go into the settings. You can set up a pin or a pattern as a backup, and move your finger around on the point there to try and get a scan of the fingerprint, and it works quite well. It's actually reasonably quick, not as quick as some of the premium phones, but it's pretty decent. That also acts as your home button as well, the fingerprint scanner. You can add additional fingers if you want to. So my impressions so far are fairly good, particularly at the price point. We'll do some more tests now. Now the first thing I did was take it outside, and the screen isn't as bright as I would like, particularly in bright sunlight, so that could be a bit of an issue. It could do with a bit more of a bump in brightness. But I did a GPS test, and the accuracy on this was actually pretty good, within a couple of meters. And that's above average for a phone in this price range. Onto the charging speed. Fairly good, just under 1 amp. Some of the phones that I've looked at can't even manage that. They're about 0.75 or 0.8 and turns green when it's finished. So you're looking at about a couple of hours, 2.5 hours to fully charge the phone. Quick benchmark results now. This is Geekbench 4, just over 1100 for the multi-core processor, and that's about average really. It's not a particularly new processor. Same result with the 3D performance. Light to moderate gaming is okay. This isn't a speed demon phone, it's a budget phone, so there's no point comparing it to higher end phones. The processor is a bit older, but it's still okay for watching videos, browsing around, and just doing general things that you do with a phone. I'm on YouTube now, just doing some playback. There's no issues at all that I saw with that. Now we'll go on to the camera. This is the MediaTek app, and it will look pretty familiar to most people that have ever used this, but you do have the usual basic settings that are here, including different color effects and filters, and they've expanded that a bit. There's not a huge number of features with this app. And I noticed with the video you have the electronic image stabilization, and if you go to the highest setting, fine, you would get full HD recording with that. Video quality is so-so, it's about average. Now my personal feelings with the app are, you have the HDR mode up there, which is okay, that helps. The problem with that is you have to hold it quite still. I have it mounted on a tripod right now. It's worth experimenting with that app, but they do have that dual lens, and you have a sort of aperture control similar to a camera. What it does is it blurs out anything outside that. That's a quick shot showing you the front camera. It's acceptable, it's passable for Skype and other software. Now I'm going in more depth to the camera now, and I notice the MediaTek app as shown here always seems to come up very cool and a bit desaturated. I'm on the camera 360 app, much warmer image. Now we've got outside, MediaTek app again. The colours just end up being washed out and lacking contrast, and they're always on the cool side even with the adjustment manually. So honestly, I've tried about 2 or 3 different apps. I always got better results with the other apps. As you can see from the images here, they're lacking sort of contrast. But once I switch over to the other app, they're actually significantly better to my eyes. This will show you the lens blur effect, and it worked okay here. It's just a basic filter, it looks to my eyes. It creates a circle and blurs around it, but it looked a bit strange on this one in the background. So it's not something I'd particularly use myself. It's not really a headline feature for me. Now, this is the A Better Camera app, and we'll just zoom in, and the sensor's actually not bad on this. The lens is actually fairly sharp, including into the corners, so I was fairly happy with the details that I got off of this. Here's another macro shot that I took. Now, the only thing to bear in mind is that the dynamic range is a bit limited. That is a drawback, but it's actually an okay camera. Just try a different app other than the MediaTek one. And the video capture can jump around a bit with the focus, and you can see here the details aren't amazing. It can be a little bit grainy as well in low light, but it's passable. So we'll summarise with the AllCall Bro. This is a very cheap phone, and I expect essentially it to do a respectable job, and it does in most areas. There are a few drawbacks. The screen could be brighter, the battery life is about average, it could be a bit longer. Moderate to light use, you'll get through the day just about, and mediocre video capture. Headphone was also a bit quieter than normal. On the other hand, you've got the notification light, you've got the fingerprint unlock, a more up-to-date Android operating system, and you also have an okay camera if you use a different app, and I found the speaker was actually pretty good as well. So there isn't a lot to complain about really for this bargain price. I think it's an okay, fairly decent little phone.